Welcome back to the channel, into level 5 of the Financial Sacrifices series. Let's get right into it. Alright, in the level 2 video, which I've linked in the description below, I discussed trying to get the same services or essentials that you need for survival, but getting them at a lower price point, thereby increasing your utility value. But at a certain point, there's only so much that you can cut back on some of the essentials that you need. So even if you cut out as many things as much as you can, there is a dollar amount that you really cannot go below if you want to survive. So for example, in the area that I live in, apartments start at about $1,400 a month. And that's just for rent, then you have utilities on top of that. And even then, when you're trying to minimize your utilities, you can't go below a certain amount of use. So I have, for example, my refrigerator and my water heater are both powered by electricity. So even if I lived in complete darkness all the time, I would still have to power those basic essentials just to survive. And the reality is my electric bill, even if I lived in total darkness other than powering those two things, would still be about $50 to $60 a month. But let's say, for example, I completely decided to eliminate having a refrigerator and no longer have hot water in the winter in New England, which is probably not my best survival move. Even just being connected to the power grid, there is still a minimum charge per month. So it would still be probably about $20 to $30 a month. So even if you eliminate everything altogether, unless you physically disconnect the power, you're not going to go below a certain dollar amount. But the reality is, beyond just not being economically feasible, there's certain essentials that you just literally cannot cut back on. So for example, if I were to cut back on food to try to save money, I would probably starve to death at some point. If I decided to no longer heat my house living in New England in the winter, I would likely freeze to death. And generally speaking, most people consider dying to be a bad thing. So if you're finding you've cut back as much as you can, you're still struggling to get by, that's where this comes in at level 5. This is the first major lifestyle change that we're going to discuss, and that is getting a roommate to lower your living costs. Basically, you're trying to get the same essentials that you need to live and the same utilities and the same function, but you're getting it at a lower cost to you by splitting that same cost with somebody else. So let's say you pay $50 a month for internet access. It's the cheapest you can get in your area. Well, now if you have the same internet access, but you're splitting it among two people, you pay $25 per person instead of you paying $50 on your own. Now take another example. If I'm heating my house and that costs me, let's say $250 a month on average, now I'm keeping my house at the same temperature, but I'm splitting it between me and one roommate. It's $125 per person rather than $250 for just me. So while you can't cut back after a certain point, what you can do is have more people go in on those same essentials, basically share the same resources, and then split the cost so that each of you pays less. And a quick caveat here, I know someone's gonna say, oh, but if you have two people, you use more water, you use more electricity, you might need faster internet so you can both do things at the same time, and blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing though, is yes, in some cases, you will use more utilities, but the amount that the utilities will go up by will be far outweighed by splitting it multiple ways. So let's say, for example, that my electric bill is $100 a month living on my own. Having a second person would raise that, but it would only raise it to $120 or $130 a month, which means you're paying $60 to $65 a person, or you're saving $35 to $40 a person when you split it two ways compared to living on your own. The overall cost per person is still lower than if you were to do it on your own. But let's start with step 1 here, which is reducing your costs as much as you can before getting a roommate prior to actually going to that step, because obviously having a roommate is a more major lifestyle change. Let's look at some cost estimates that I put together here, and per usual, these are just ballpark figures, but they're semi-realistic ballparks, and these examples use realistic rent and utility costs near me for my area. So I've compiled the monthly cost for typical living expenses and utilities based on a few different scenarios here. And you'll see here I have prices for living alone when you're in a 1-bedroom apartment versus a 2-bedroom apartment. And there's a few things I want to point out here real quick. So first is going back to the level 2 and the level 3 videos, I talked a lot about eliminating the expenses that you don't truly need because they're non-value added. They're things you pay for that don't really give you a benefit to your life. So right away, looking at this cost breakdown, if you look at the 1-bedroom versus the 2-bedroom apartment when you live alone, this is a great example of this, right? I personally know multiple people who were living alone, but they told themselves they needed a second bedroom in case they had friends over, or in some cases because they were working remote and they wanted the extra space to set up as an office, or they always had some sort of excuse as to why they needed this additional space, even though they were living on their own and it was, quite frankly, probably more than they actually needed. But when you look at the reality of the situation, you can find pretty much any other area of your house to set up a desk. The fact that every college dorm fits 2 beds with 2 full-size desks tells me that you're probably not utilizing your space very well if you can't find room for a single desk within an entire apartment. Back to the other example of the person who said they needed a guest room in case friends stayed over. Here's the reality, right? If your friend lives semi-locally, they're not going to spend the night. They're going to want to go home on their own. They might Uber home instead, or 2, they could just realistically sleep on a couch or a blow-up mattress in your living room or something else like that. There's still ways around it where you don't necessarily need that extra space and that extra monthly cost. So in particular, the example I'm thinking of where this friend said they needed to have a second bedroom in case they had friends over overnight, there are only 2 people in the entire year they lived in that apartment that actually stayed the night. And of those 2 people, one of them was drinking, passed out on the couch, and didn't use the bedroom anyhow. So let's look at this from a monetary perspective real quick, okay? So even though the upfront cost of rent for an extra bedroom based on renting prices near me is about $250 a month, you also have to factor in that it is a larger space. That means there is more square footage, which means more space to heat and cool. That means more lights are on to keep it lit so you can actually use the space if you're going to. As a result of that, when you look at the utility cost difference as well, that means your average cost, your true average cost, is about $370 more per month based on the true increase of heating and electric prices as well as the increase in rent. Beyond that, if you're really financially savvy, you'll also know that you now have to factor in another set of furniture, additional decorations, another lamp or a nightstand or whatever else to try to fill that space, and then the next time you move, you have to get a bigger U-Haul or whatever else and have a more difficult time moving because now you have more large objects that won't fit into your sedan. But let's look at this a slightly different way, okay? If you had someone who visited routinely, but they didn't want to sleep on your couch, they refused to sleep on an air mattress, they had to have a full-size bed, you could put them in a hotel for $150 a night for one night every single month of the year, and you would still save $2,640 per year relative to renting an apartment with that second bedroom based on the numbers I'm showing here. So that's kind of step 1 to this level, right? Is getting a smaller place to kind of reduce your living costs as much as possible. Don't get something that's more than you need or really beyond your spending limits. If you're very budget constrained, quite frankly, you don't need the most expensive apartment that you can find unless it's a legitimate health or safety issue. A smaller apartment is going to not only be less expensive up front, but all other things being equal, it will be less money for utility costs as well, giving you some recurring benefits in other places. What it's really boiling down to here, don't pay for things you don't need. But now let's move on to step 2, which is seeing how these costs change when you add in a roommate. Here's some additional numbers that are going to show the same cost, but living with a roommate or with a significant other in those same scenarios. Or you can go full college dorm status, you can double up in both bedrooms in a 2-bedroom apartment having 4 people total. And like I said earlier in this video, your utilities will probably go up slightly with more people living within the same apartment, so that is reflected here as well. But even though the total cost is still going up because your utilities are going up, the cost per person goes down because, as I mentioned earlier, you're splitting your same baseline expenses more ways, and the amount that the expenses go up by is easily offset by how many more people are paying for them. So let's start with an example where you still have a 2-bedroom apartment, but you have 1 roommate. Going into the numbers here, if you have a 2-bedroom apartment, based on these numbers, you save $1,057.50 per month by having 1 roommate. Again, still a 2-bedroom apartment, you still have your own bedroom, your own space, but it still saves you over $1,000 per month relative to living on your own. But let's go a step farther. Let's say you go full college dorm status, you install some sweet bunk beds, make plenty of room for activities, or you're living with a significant other, you're sharing a single bedroom. In that case, if you get rid of the second bedroom and you have both people in a 1-bedroom apartment, that saves you an additional $185 or almost 20% more per month just by getting rid of that extra bedroom. And then if you go ultimate college mode, you have the same thing doubled up in both bedrooms in a 2-bedroom apartment, that can save you $1,587.50 per month relative to living on your own based on these numbers. Now let's extrapolate these to an annual cost just as a point of reference here, okay? Cutting back on the extra bedroom while living alone saves you $2,440 per year, which is already a significant amount of money. But if you add a roommate while keeping the second bedroom, that saves you a staggering $12,000 $4,690 per year. Now let's say you keep the roommate but you get rid of the second bedroom. That means you save $14,910 per year in that scenario. Then going the full college dorm status, 2 bedrooms, 4 roommates total, that saves you $19,050 per year based on these numbers, which once again are fairly realistic figures. So you might be sitting there telling yourself, ooh, I don't like people, I don't want to deal with the roommate, it's not worth it, it's worth the cost to live on my own. Really, you're gonna throw away $13,000 a year minimum savings based on these numbers because you refuse to deal with another human on a routine basis? Are you really that insufferable that $13,000 a year is throwaway money to you? Because if so, I mean, this video series might not be for you. Because again, $13,000 is the minimum. If you add in more roommates, that number can go up to $20,000 a year that you can save. Now, at the very start of the series, I said that these sacrifices are going to get progressively more impactful to your lifestyle. They're going to get progressively more challenging. I was not kidding about that. I realize that this can be difficult. I realize it's not always easy going from living on your own to living with 1 to 3 other people. I fully acknowledge that that can be a major lifestyle adjustment if you're not used to having to share a space. But if you're struggling financially, again, this is an opportunity to save, $20,000 a year. This is what you need, not what you want. You need to survive. You need to be able to pay your bills and to get groceries. You need to not freeze to death in the winter. Those are essentials. Living on your own, that's not an essential, that's a want. But here's a little bit of a bonus savings for you, okay? Obviously you're going to save upfront with rent, you're gonna save with splitting utilities, but you also are going to save on other resources. Having roommates is a great way to cut down on other non-value added expenses as well. So for example, you can trade off who's cooking or who's cleaning, so that way you're both not doing 100% of things on your own all the time. And when you have multiple people doing the same thing together, it takes all of you less time and you have more free time left over. But here's another example, okay? The level 3 video, I talked about minimizing your driving and minimizing unnecessary travel to reduce your costs as well. If you live a decent driving distance to the grocery store, you can also trade off on who drives there and save the costs there as well. So let's assume, for example, you spend about $5,000 a year on commuting expenses, which is not unheard of. Obviously, there's some limitations to this, but if you become roommates with someone you work with, now you can carpool to work as well. Now again, if you and your roommate both own cars, there's still a threshold that you can't go below. You still have to maintain your own vehicles, you still have to insure them, so you're not going to completely eliminate the expense, but if you're trading off who is driving to the office when you're carpooling to work, you can reduce at least some of that commuting expense by sharing that with somebody else. Obviously, there's limitations to this. Some of you might get into the office earlier or leave later. You have to line up your schedules. Maybe someone has a doctor's appointment, so you have to take 2 cars. But when I was at my first job out of college, and I was starting to get a little more serious about the financial sacrifices because, again, I kind of had to, I started rooming with a coworker of mine, and we each saved an additional roughly $2,000 a year on commuting expenses on top of the living cost decrease. But then when you factor in the other things, going to the grocery store, running other errands, the additional savings you get in those places go up even more. Before I went to that level of making these sacrifices, I was living with a significant other at the time. We had a 2-bedroom apartment. My portion of the rent and the utilities was just over $1,300 a month on average. So the numbers I showed earlier in my example, those are pretty spot on for the prices around here. But when the lease on that place expired, looking at these costs and looking at the concepts that I showed in the level 3 video, I found a place that was a lot closer to my job. It reduced my commute significantly. The base cost of rent was also $600 cheaper per month. The place had more bedrooms, so I was able to get the coworker to live with us as well because we had the extra space for it. And even though it was a bigger space, my utilities didn't go up at all because it was better insulated than the crappy apartment that we had before. So when you look at the living cost savings and the savings from carpooling and having the additional roommate, even though I was already coming from a scenario where I was living with somebody else, I still saved an additional $10,650 per year based on the rent, commuting costs, and decrease of utilities. But if I was living on my own before that, that means I would have saved $23,340 per year. Let's give this some perspective, okay? Going back to an example I used in the level 2 video, if your pre-tax income is $75,000 per year, that means you make roughly $60,000 take-home pay depending on your state and local taxes. Based on the numbers and the examples I used here, which again are realistic figures, that's the equivalent of going into your job tomorrow and having a 38.9% raise, doing nothing else different, other than living with and carpooling with somebody else. But again, as a reminder for those of you who aren't aware, my income at that time was nowhere near the $75,000 a year mark. It was lower than that by like a lot. So for me at that time, based on how much I made and the state taxes that I was dealing with, that was the equivalent of a 50% pay increase. So again, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, it's worth the cost to live alone, I don't like living with people. Let's phrase this a different way. Would you take a 40 to 50% pay rise tomorrow and all you have to do is live with a coworker and start carpooling? Because honestly, when I was in that situation, that's what I did. And I would easily do that again because the savings from it are astronomical. I realize that this is a big life impact. That's why this is later in the series, but the level of impact that this has financially far exceeds the lifestyle impact. Again, would you take a 40 to 50% raise and all you have to do is live with a coworker and start carpooling? Because when I was in that scenario, that's what I did. That is what enabled me to get by. But with that, congratulations, you have now finished level 5 of financial sacrifices. Again, I realize this is a big lifestyle impact. The goal of this series is showing you what you can sacrifice now to get yourself in a much better position a couple years down the road so that you no longer have to make these sacrifices and that you can live the lifestyle you want. But if you found this information helpful, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing with somebody else who might find it useful as well. Pretty much all of these just help the channel grow and helps promote the content and encourages YouTube to show this to other people, thereby helping them as well. That's all I got for this episode, but I'll put a link to the next video here for you. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.